Hello, I'm David D. Hilster, and this is my second talk here at the conference in line with the ScienceWoke, the ScienceWoke theme of the conference. And I think it's appropriate because we're not going to get anywhere. It's nice to talk about everything we do, but we really got to know how to get this out into the real world. And I spend a lot of time doing that. That's one of my major focuses. We are growing, our group is growing, but what's really going on there? What do we need to know? And I want to give you a piece of really what's going on. Some of you know about this kind of thing going on as well. But this is actually from an article from the ScienceWoke website. Of course, it's got a little more in it than this does, but this is inspired by something I wrote for that online magazine, which is an online magazine for critical thinkers. And of course, you have here the wanted physics evangelists, consider them armed and dangerous, and these are really the people out there that are the mouthpieces for the big science, big physics, big cosmology. I did happen to meet Bill Nye, the science guy. I've told that story before, but we're going to be talking about this subject today. Journalism today, in 1983, there were 50 companies owned 90% of the media consumed by Americans. And that means you had a lot of competition. You had people watching and policing each other to do the right thing. I remember when I was young in Walter Cronkite times when I was growing up, and journalists were very much aware of being true to what you're doing. Journalism should show the problems everywhere, including science, and not just be a mouthpiece for somebody. But by 2012, just 6 companies, including Fox, then part of the News Corporation, Time Warner, controlled that 90%. And these are the companies, which means even with science, what mainstream science and the people who are controlling science and who have the money for science, they're going to most likely have the same message. And that's what we are finding, both politically, but also in the scientific world. The journalism of old was supposedly unbiased, investigating reporting to police those in power. So it was investigative reporting to police those people in power, stick to the facts, present both sides of the story, would call out other journalists for bad journalism. And that's really the way journalism used to work. But the modern news journalists now are readers of the news. In fact, if you've not seen I know a lot of people aren't in the social media area, but in fact, there's a very famous video meme. A meme is a little sound bite. It's either a graphic that has a saying like, from Aristotle or something, or sometimes it can be a video. But this video was of over 100 news stations, TV news stations, local, from around the country, the United States, saying the exact same thing. That is literally what was instead of reporting locally what's going on, these journalists are literally reading from a script. They're no longer journalists. In fact, the people who are there are earning their money. They're mouthpieces. The stories are carefully chosen to fit the narrative across the globe, and that is now global. I know my wife is Brazilian. We watch Brazilian TV, and believe me, the narrative is there as well. Anything that goes against the narrative rarely makes it to the airways and is often ridiculed. Now, is this happening in science, in big science? And yes, big science is no different. Big science has their self-appointed mouthpieces. They support Einstein, Hawking, dark matter, the Big Bang, and the latest particle found in their greatest temple, the Large Hadron. During his talk, I had to turn my head, bite my tongue as hard as I could, because he says, this cell phone in my hand can only work because it uses relativity, both special and general. I was really shocked that he actually said that, because most of the kids in that room probably have no idea the difference between special and general relativity. Well, I think what's happening, and this is sort of a dream, a wish, a belief, but I do think it is true, and especially because of the internet, and especially because of groups like this, and especially like voices like myself and many other people out there on YouTube today. They feel the pressure, because I don't see any reason for him to go and say both special and general, because I think why would they do that? People must be going after them, and I'll show you an example of exactly that. Okay, we're going to see if this hopefully plays.
Last one for you is from Hugh.
What's going on there. Now, if you were a scientist and if you were a journalist, if we were to go 30 years back, 40 years back, and I was in his place, and I was trying to be a person who teaches the general public about science. When you ask a person, could Newton be wrong? Could Einstein be wrong? The answer should never be laughing, ever. If you're a real, true, critical thinker, everything could be wrong, everything. You can never say that there is an absolute. And that in itself, just the laugh, comes from one thing, arrogance. That's all it comes from. Because if I were a professor in a physics class and someone asked me that, yes, it can't be wrong. In fact, Einstein said it, one experiment, 1,000 can prove me right, but really what he's saying, 1,000 can support my theory, 1 can show me wrong. And of course we have lots of those, but you can see that's what's today is happening. This is why when people ask you, what do you do? And I made a movie called Einstein Wrong. Oh, Einstein's wrong? Who's right? It took me 7 years to find the answer to that question and why it was asked. Why does somebody, when I tell them I made a documentary, it took me 9 years to make, really, really entertaining documentary. If you haven't seen it, go to EinsteinWrong.com. Why is it that when I tell people Einstein's wrong, oh, he's wrong, who's right? And there's only one reason for that. It took me 7 years. Fame. Because if you were interested in your critical thinker, and you were interested in what the person was saying, my question would be, he's wrong, why?
Tell me scientifically. But people don't want that. What they want are saviors. They want heroes. They want famous ideas. So the question, if someone asks me, if I say Einstein wrong, they go, who's right? He said, oh, so you're interested in the person who does it, not the actual idea that he's wrong. And people are like, whoa, because that's really what's going on. Think about it. Next time someone asks you that, you can use that. Use that idea. Don't say, no, well, so you're not interested in the science, you're interested in who did it, right? Because that's what the question is. But when we hear it, what we think is, oh my gosh, when I first heard that, I think, oh, what do I do? Oh, what do I answer? What do I say? And you finally go, wait a minute, why are they even asking that question? Let's go forward here. Whoops, there we go.
Acquired for $1.65 billion. And the idea was that YouTube would be the channel, everyone would have their own channel. And it sounded, I remember when it came out, I said, that's so stupid. You come back to today, that's exactly what's happening. That if you have something to say to the world, you no longer have to be in a university, you no longer have to be even an expert in it, you don't have to have a degree in biology to put this up and have your YouTube channel. Then when they started realizing, because of this, that there was revenue sharing or partner program, and its top 500 partners, this is today, each are earning more than $100,000 annual. No, that was at the time when they did that. My daughter has gone. My daughter, who's 13, doesn't watch mainstream TV at all. Gets all her news and everything she wants by the people talking exactly what she likes. She likes video games. She likes. She's a theater actress. She likes theater. She looks at those things. She likes shows that involve her on demand. Why? My daughter would ask you, why am I going to wait for 8:30 to show up to watch a program? Where is it? Let me watch it. And so she has literally gone. Her celebrities, the people they look up to today, are YouTube. And she was in LA, we live in Florida now, and I said, what was the best thing? We went and visited some name I never heard of, some 16-year-old girl. And they got autographs with her, they were choosing, and there were thousands of kids there. The top YouTube person, which is my daughter watches, plays video games, Minecraft. He made it was $17 million made by but he got $12 million. He made $12 million just because he started a YouTube channel and showed watching games that everybody liked. So it's a power out there. And I saw that in 2017, I saw that and I said, we need to get in this. Oops. Yeah, my daughter has no idea what CNN, these things, news comes from YouTube and Facebook. I myself also do this. I do not like watching CNN and MSNBC and Fox politically. I have a particular bent, and I see what they say is not what's really happening. So I go to YouTube and find a person actually saying it and not somebody picking the part they want to tell you so that you believe it. Mainstream media coverage is biased on both sides, and it is dying. That's an interesting thing. CNN is now below 1 million people watching it, and the average age of CNN audience is over 70. YouTube, the world's universities. There are millions of lectures on everything online. When I have something break in my house, what do? Those people who know, You go look it up, right? You look it up and say, oh, I've got this computer. We had one computer for the MPA, an older computer. I needed to switch out the screen. I'm not a tech person. I'm a computer person, but I'm a tech person. I bought it, found out on YouTube where I could buy it, do it. I watched the YouTube person take it apart so I didn't bust anything. I mean, the world's knowledge is there. The university of almost everything you want is there. Real universities are now offering courses only online, and there are universities who were nothing who are now making millions because they were a little brick and mortar somewhere. They knew where they were going, and they started offering courses. The first ones for free that actually got you their degrees. And now every major university is doing this. So you don't have to have a degree to add to human knowledge. I mean, there would be a lot of, how many of us are actually in it? I think the only person, well, I may be wrong, but the person I know, last night we visited Cynthia Whitney. She got her degree in physics from MIT on relativity. And then her first job as a physicist, she applied it to lasers on gyroscopes or something like that, or positioning, whatever, in the Sagnac effect. And the first thing she found out, that relativity broke. It didn't work. In fact, she wanted to show that, and she found actually the opposite. So you don't have to have a technical degree to fix something, like I said. So the woke movement, the internet showed the world the possibilities. People in other countries could see, in repressed countries could see the way a free-thinking society should work. And young people who lived in very totalitarian regimes, all of a sudden, that's an extremely powerful 3 words. Truth to power. And that's what we're doing. We're just doing it in the scientific way. There's politically, environmentally, sexually, racially, and believe it or not, scientifically. I couldn't believe, when was it? Was it last year? I went and when you register domain names today, almost every domain name on the internet, something.com, something.org, has been taken. In fact, when we got naturalphilosophy.org, there was naturalphilosophy.com and naturalphilosophy.org. And I thought to myself, this group is the best group on the planet to own that and to be true to what that means. And naturalphilosophy.com was going for $4,000 or $5,000. Naturalphilosophy.org was going for $888. So what did I do? I got us together. I know the numbers have contributed. Myself, Duncan, other people put in some money. And we bought it. We got that piece of real estate on the internet. And when I went to find ScienceWoke, I thought, there's no way in this woke movement, every woke has to be took. No. That was shocking to me. That means no one's even thought of that. And if you know about the woke movement, if you're in it, which I have been from the beginning, I have a person I know in Florida. He's a particular political persuasion, like what I am. And I saw him go from 100 subscribers, he's now up to 50,000. And he's starting to make a living at doing that. And I got inspired by that, so I started my YouTube channel, etc. And I thought, oh my gosh, ScienceWoke isn't taken. So I immediately, for $15 or $20 a year, I spent of our money here, and we got ScienceWoke and ScienceWoke.com, ScienceWoke.org and ScienceWoke.com. I just couldn't believe it. So that's amazing. So in the ScienceWoke movement became an environmental fight over global warming. This is something very interesting to you guys. One of the things is I have another website of a channel which I have not gotten. It's a political side, but it's also science, and that's going to open up a lot of people toward our direction. The problem right now is the fight on science is a fight now against people who say you have to believe in global warming. If you don't, you're terrible. We have people who are saying if you don't believe in the global warming or climate change, you don't believe in science. And that's not the case. I'm not here to argue both sides, but in the early 2000s and in my movie, I quote a study from Michigan University that asked 3,000 scientists about their research and their data. A third of them anonymously admitted to changing their data to fit their outcome. A third. How many people do you think in universities are doing that? If I'm on the global warming side and I think, and I'm not saying again whether it's right or wrong, I just look at the destruction of the earth. We're destroying the earth. That's why I say, forget about global warming, forget about those things, we're destroying the earth. That's what's happening. Right now, if we were to give papers about how global warming, this doesn't show global warming, the science Nazis, I will say, and people that I know who are in my area politically, that's what the fight is. It's like, you see these, I'll show you, the next slide, you're going to see this, what this is. There's a blind acceptance of the data. This is what happened with science. This is what, if you ask the woke movement, science right now is a fight against flat earth society and everybody who believes in science. And I'm telling you this because we are in the noise of all that. I have to understand that to position ourselves, because we have a whole different fight that they don't even know exists. They're talking about people who think the flat earthers. I know for a fact, because one of the YouTube channels that wanted to interview me, because that's why you get known, right? They interviewed the people who started the Flat Earth Society. It is a joke. The people who did it are people who are the same people who did crop circles. They said, we're going to take this idea, people probably at Harvard or Yale, it's a prank. It's a huge prank. So they said, we're going to start this idea that there's people out there who believe in the flat, and they started publishing things on it's basically not fake news, but planned ideas about, okay, how do we show that? They started trying to use scientific data to do that. Then, not surprisingly, an entire group of people on the internet and on YouTube, some of them with a lot of subscribers now, meaning a big audience, are making their living fighting these guys, and these guys are laughing their way all to their prank. So, and then you get people who actually start following it psychologically to go, oh, maybe they're right. So this is what's going on in the world. Right now, you're talking about global warming versus not. There is a lot of evidence saying that we are global warming. There's a lot of evidence saying this is a natural cycle that's been going on for thousands of years. But we are in that landscape. If we go into that, they're going to go, oh, flat earthers. I've already had that. And the reason I'm telling you guys is this is the reality of the science woke movement. So the left is saying global warming is a fact. The right is saying they're not certain. Accusations of those who don't subscribe to global warming they do not believe in science. And if you don't believe this, take a look at this. There's the flat earthers, climate change deniers, science haters, but then we have the science righteous. This is an actual, that middle with the halo around that, that's an actual t-shirt. Now think about it, folks. Is that middle image of deGrasse Tyson, is that one of science or is that one of a religion? That's Very shocking. Now take a look at the t-shirt next to it. The universe is made of protons, neutrons, electrons, and morons. These guys get out there talking about anybody who has any dissident idea as being a moron. This is what's going on. This is no different than what's going on when the United States government says, oh, yeah, they attacked us, we're going to go into another war. We've heard that before. We've heard that over and over and over. You hear it on the news, they want you to believe what's going on. This is where we're at in the ScienceWoke movement. Thank goodness, and I'll toot my own horn, I'm paying attention to this. Because we are going to walk a thin line where we're going to either fall into this science wars, where we're going to fall into the flat earthers, and the science righteous are going to tell us we are wrong. And we're a bunch of we're just crazy crackpots. What are you talking about? This mirror image of, right? That's what people could say. But that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen if we don't take care of what we're doing here. So I started saying, okay, we need to change our vocabulary. We got to get here. And one of the things I'm going to do is try to school our very young scientists in our group to the goings on in the world. These are real phrases used all the time. Big pharma. Big pharma is trying to make our, they're not interested in, that used to be you make stuff and help people and heal people, and that was a wonderful thing. No, big pharma wants to make gobs of money. Big agriculture wants to make gobs of money. Big brother we hear, the big fuel fossil, big government, the big war machine. So, shouldn't we have something in our arena? Yeah, the missing biggies. And I use it all the time in ScienceWoke. I'm injecting that into the vocabulary. I'm taking the sides of the big that make the big bad. Okay? That's what I'm doing. Big science tells us that we can't, as a student, I can't challenge Einstein. Big science tells me I can't come up with my own theory of inertia. You were just peeling potatoes. What do you know? Right? So big science. I use that in my articles. I use that, big physics, big cosmology. This is knowing what people use these things for, what we should be saying. I know it sounds like, I don't want to know. Yes, there are people in this room that should only work on their theories. That's great. But when you come to me and say, Dave, there's not enough, there used to be 100 people here, why not? Well, yeah, generations are moving. We've got to get into the modern world. It's not the same as the early 1990s. It's not the same. So. Libraries, then the internet came. You have to be self-motivated. Find the problems yourself or from others. Try to solve them. Then you get so excited about finding big problems, you want to find a solution on your own. That is, oh man, this is wrong. Or you see something that inspires you. Once you get some solution, you are excited about sharing it. This is the natural way people go and come to this group. You only found, though, others who wanted to share their ideas. And that was one of the, I remember 2 Finnish guys who never came back. It was at the University of Connecticut. I was out on the patio and he goes, Dave, I'm never coming back. I said, why? He says, all you have is a bunch of salesmen here, no buyers. And that is something we need to change. Why do we do YouTube channels? To get people interested. Because what should happen here is, if I look at almost everyone here, it's not everyone. In the last few years, we get people who just come, who don't have their own theory, or are not writing a paper, so that excludes Ray. And those people need to grow. We need to have people who like this. and become part of this. So who will listen to you? A better way of becoming science woke. Well, some website that could help one become science woke or teach what it means to be science woke on its own, stands alone. And that we have done that. It could look like recognize the major. This is what I came up with a few during last year or so. Recognize the major problems of the big science, big physics, and big cosmology. You notice how that's the way we say it on the website. So when a person who has become woke politically comes here, and I have many subscribers who've typed in the comments, you know, I've been politically woke for a few years now, and I always had a suspicion that big science was in on the game too. And that's what they found. So this is a huge audience. The woke movement is a big movement with millions of people worldwide. Show the repression of big science. Last night, we had the great session with Dr. Cynthia Whitney, who received a Lifetime Achievement Award from us, and she had asked everybody to tell the story of how they came in, like I asked Sandra, how they got into this, and the stories were absolutely fascinating. Toshi just doesn't have a degree, walks into MIT, walks into Caltech. I've got something. And then you start to hear the stories of either ignoring, not answering, or plain out, ridiculing you. People don't know this goes on because you don't read it on the news. You don't see, oh, so-and-so had a really great idea. They have an experiment showing Einstein wrong. And, our investigative reporters, no, they're not going to do that because the big companies pay for those scientists to make those big experiments. They're not going to do that. That's not going to work. So we need to show the repression. We have fight stories, I call them. Fight stories. You click on fights and you get them. There's some fight stories we're going to get. Toshi has one. It doesn't mean you fight, but it's what it means to, there is a conflict. Show the scientists in the science woke movement. And we have that done very well, very nice, and it reads on a phone. You don't know how important that is. If you have a website in here today and you wonder why no one's looking at it, because 70% of the world looks at it through a cell phone. And if it doesn't look good, they go on. I mean, these are stupid things, but this is where they find out. And in the future, we're going to find, oh yeah, I was reading it. Where'd you read it? On my phone. So if you go to ScienceWoke.com, it looks really great on a telephone. And it works so you can navigate on a telephone. I worked hours and hours. How do I get all those things? So I have this called word cloud. When you get to every article, right at the top, it has all the little, go to your phone and ScienceWoke, you'll see that. This was all planned. It was all made out. So show new theories and solutions. Show anyone can do it. Show that more than one model or theory is beneficial, because that's where we are. We're in model revolution. So the idea that, there's only one theory, that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying in the Venn diagram. We found the truth that never moves, so it stays. All we can do is add to it with something like the string theory, which is the most absurd thing. Even mainstream physicists in general don't believe that. So that's what our science woke narrative is. Become science woke, flashy sort of good graphics, good logos, good ideas. And here you can see start here, the latest. That means if you've already been here, what's the latest articles? We have new articles all the time. Problems in science, and when you click on that, you can go on the problems. The scientists involved in the new theories. My goodness, this just didn't exist. This is the only place on the planet that has it. This is it. So one of the things about it is when I would talk to somebody at a party, I'd say, go to naturalphilosophy.org. I made the website. It's about for the average science person, it's about as sticky as a slide with oil on it. That means they'll stay there for 10 seconds and they're on their way. Look what they see when they come here. They see this little kid with this, whoa, it gets your attention. That's what we need to do. We've done that. And I think the CNPS, of course, has a role. This is another thing that I came up with about how to sell this. What is it? Why are you here? Why is it important to be science woke? Well, the objective is science woke. Well, how do you do it? Well, you have a community of critical thinkers. And in the community of critical thinkers, you have a home, and it's called natural philosophy. And this is very simple. People, get this. They understand what this is all about. The vocabulary of ScienceWoke, we need to start using it. ScienceWoke, okay? Are you ScienceWoke? What do you mean? Big science, big physics, big cosmology. This is the vocabulary we're using in the articles. In fact, when I have people write articles now, we're writing specifically, I ask them to use the vocabulary. Critical thinkers, free thought, democratic, disruptive. That's a big thing in software, disruptive. Uber disrupted taxis. We need to disrupt physics and cosmology. Okay, and here are some of the things that we've come up with to show you some of the marketing we've done.
It's a perception thing. I mean, if you show up at a job and you're in your bathing suit and thongs, and it's a perception. You have to show that you're doing something and doing something nicely. So these things are available. That was made because all I had to do is make it. There's a thing called Render Forest. You go there, throw in your logo, type in what you want, and it builds this for you automatically. It's quite nice. Anybody in this room who has a channel and wants to do that, let me know. Okay, go to the next one. See.
Astounding. And he's got a logo. I made a logo for him, the particle model. You can see like particles. You see the wave of particles, those are all traveling together. It's the same speed, by the way. It's not ether. And they had all those things, those balls were already there. I just found it. It was like, Dad, I got your stinger. And Dad goes, what's a stinger? I think he thought it was a drink, right? Like an alcoholic drink. So, huh?
Take two.
Oh, you'll take 2 of those? Yeah. So that's another one you can see here. Whoops. Whoops. Here we go. Now we'll see another one here. Energy wave theory with Jeff Yee. He's a young guy. Of course, that's in his 40s. Great. His website is absolutely outstanding. It's astounding, actually. It's an energy wave. It's got standing waves that make particles in center nucleus, and he builds all of science, all of modern day. He actually rebuilds the same kind of standard model, much simplified. And I found this. It was like, how did it become waves? Well, they had this wave thing, and I said, Jeff, this is perfect for you. So I made it for him and gave it to him. So those are the things. And then, of course, you saw the fractal. Identical, and I actually made those info boxes for things that we have. I took our database, dumped it all in. We have 10,000 pages in our Wikipedia. And I also have something that takes latex that is your papers here, translated into the wiki language, and then you can, in fact, have your paper. I need help with that. I do for a few of them that I see worthy, but we can have all those papers on Wikipedia in our wiki. We have our forums, and of course we have a database. We have our video conferencing system, which we do on Saturdays. We have social media, which we are very poor at, and that would bring lots of people. Facebook has almost 2 billion people, and to say that we can literally pinpoint people who like physics in a specific way, and I'm not kidding. To get people just in our group here, and it cost me $10 to make advertising for Facebook for this. So we need to be improving our marketing. The way I look at it is a CNPS current goals. We need to continue our new articles on ScienceWoke, keep it fresh. That's really important. I have people who write them, I throw them up there, they give me permission. Dr. Alexander Unziker has promised to give us articles now and then. Every YouTube video I make now is scripted word for word. I then go back, edit it, put graphics in, put the stingers in the front and the back, put a soundtrack in sometimes, make it really interesting. It's been much stickier that way, but I also make it a ScienceWoke article. So I literally type into WordPress for ScienceWoke my script for my video, and then I not only have the video that then gets hundreds, thousands of views later on, I also have it in a written form. So if you want to send your friend who's interested in becoming ScienceWoke, you go there. We need to add more YouTube channels. There are people out there that I wish would have YouTube channels. It's a way of teaching your own class, and people come and watch these, and it only grows. Improve our presenting skills, presentation skills and equipment. I started out with nothing, just talking. Eventually got lighting, and I eventually got a better microphone. I got a green screen now, all these kinds of things. That's cheap. Doing video editing. Who does that quite well is Jeff Yee. He does some really nice stuff where he's doing it, but he does video editing. Intros that you saw from Render Forest, I subscribe to that, so I can do 5 of those a month. Anybody here wants to do one of those, we have that. Doing graphics, and of course memes. Memes are those things that you have on the website and stuff. So what are my next goals here is we want to work on building the audience for the Saturday morning video conferences. We've been very good at upkeeping that, but we can really now take it to the next level. I've not been able to do that. I want to redo our main website, get that a lot more palatable. If you go to that on a phone, it's choking. So we got to get that up, and then of course open up new paths to ScienceWoke. That is a big one. I'm still working. I just got to find out the right time, because we can literally, I know a way to turn the floodgates on that, and that would mean a lot of people in our direction. But we got to be ready for it. One of the things you don't want to do is turn on marketing and have a big disappointment, because that will kill you in the end. So that's my. I want you guys to know this, because when I ask you to use the vocabulary, or when we have these things, where this fits, how we are fighting this whole science war going on, the climate deniers against not, the Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that our group doesn't believe in science. That's the side we can fall on very easily. We can fall very quickly onto the flat earthers, and we could be written off. And the moment some big person writes you off and says your name and says you are flat earthers, you're dead. It's really hard to recover. So that's why I'm doing this talk. That's why it's important, at least you know. Do you have to actively participate? No. If you want your theory and your work known, I can pretend and tell you, no, just do your stuff, hand it to someone, and it'll happen. Never happens. Picasso, one of the greatest artists of all time, could draw incredibly. I'm an artist myself. I admire him because when he was younger, he could draw your portrait, just like a photo. It's something I like to do, do portraits and then go to abstract.
He was the best marketer of his own stuff. That was half the battle. He'd get everybody into a room who wanted his paintings, who knew this person wanted the paintings, that person, and he made them stew. He would call them in certain orders. Why did he do that? He was one of the greatest artists of all time, without a doubt, because marketing. Doesn't matter. If you have the best idea and it dies on a piece of paper, and then when your children's children get an old box of maybe a revolutionary idea and they throw it away, is that what we want? So that's why it's important. Well, thank you very much. It's 12:15. If we have any questions, probably not probably anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, we got a new guy who hasn't heard what I said a lot.
No. Hello?
Just push it up.
I used it.
Oh, wait a minute.
I can use this one.
Go ahead.
I got it.
It should.
I got it.
No, this one's not working either.
It's not working either? That's weird. Okay, try it now.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I turned it down. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Good.
All right. So I just want to emphasize, yes, the important of what you're saying is crucial to market your idea in a fun, interesting way. And I want to add that the importance of being simple and transparent and communicate the ideas clearly, because sometimes in science ideas are very complicated and it's very hard to get them through. So it's very important to keep that in mind. This is a marketing game we're playing. And I had a question for you. I want to know if you have considered looking into crowdfunding, doing platforms for that. That would make a great difference, because, for instance, the flat Earth people, it's crazy, but they have a huge amount of money, and I wonder how they get. Probably, I like conspiracy theories. I like to think some people is feeding to people to label everybody loonies just because there's a group of people that is very noticeable speaking nonsense. But if it's a marketing problem and it's a money problem. If we can get cater the ideas we have here to wealthy people who will be happy to donate and do a big tax write-off, that would make a great difference.
Yes, I have thought of that. There's various types of funding for those who don't know on the internet, how people make livings. What happens is when you start talking about especially political ideas, that then start getting what they call demonetized. So let's say you're a YouTube personality, and now you are talking about something, and you have a following of, say, 100,000 people, and you're now making $50,000 a year off of that. Well, what happens is, if you are political and you start to rub against the mainstream of whatever you're in, they start doing what they call demonetizing you. They start, literally every video you make on YouTube has a little $sign next to it, and that little $sign is either a happy green one or a red one with a line through it, meaning this video will not have any advertisers on it. And one of the things I do, for instance, on myself, and this is related to your question, believe me here, is I do not swear. I don't use swear words, although there are times when I listened to this video with Neil deGrasse Tyson a year and a half ago and criticized it on my YouTube channel, I wanted to swear. The moment you swear, some advertisers will not want to put advertising, you won't get funded. So you're a person, this is just one area. Let's say, according to statistics, in a couple of years I have 100,000, 150,000 subscribers, and they're really liking this, and the money's starting to come in. Then all of a sudden Big Science gets a hold of this and I get labeled whatever, and then all of a sudden I get demonetized. They go to a website called Patreon. And this is only one thing. There's also another was crowdfunding, but Patreon, all that means is you like my channel so much and what I say so much that you are going to give me $5 a month. You're going to give me $50 a month. And people who are doing journalism on their own, who are revealing things that the other journalists won't, like the poison water we have all over this country because we have lead pipes and, you know, governments, rich want another yacht to fit in their other yacht while we don't spend money on things that we need to. Well, these people are out there doing journalism. You get a following that's big enough. I've seen people who are journalists who only have 50,000 subscribers that are pulling in $3,000 a month on Patreon because people are supporting what they do. This is the different world, folks. I know some of the people here who are older are going, what? The other thing is crowdfunding if you have a project. Now, if you have a project, if we had a project in this group that was really, really compelling, there's two ways to fund it. You find a rich person like the EU people do. They have some rich donors, and more power to them. There's no criticism. That is absolutely great. I always joke, if you're rich, we'll be very happy to accept your donations. But if not, you can do crowdfunding. Because if you do something like, one of the things that one of the kids are doing, I wish I could get more people interested, would be, he's doing software. We have software with the expanding Earth, so you can plot everything on an expanding Earth. Imagine what you can do to plot the flora and the fauna, plot what the atmosphere is during that time, and be able to model things, not on a stagnant Earth, but on an expanding one. With the data overwhelming these things, you could come up with crowdfunding for that. I have thought up and down. We don't have that yet. I don't see it. Have I thought of that? Oh yeah, for the last 3 years. What can we do? And I actually I did have an idea with that, and I actually tried to float it with this group for a while, but it didn't really work. So yeah, it is a possibility, and it is out there. You know, Patreon. I don't know if what I would do would get to that point that people would actually pay me to make videos on that.
No, I was thinking more about crowdfunding, like Indiegogo, GoFundMe, you know,
Right.
cater to reach people, maybe individually, but also maybe as a group. This is a project that, you know, needs funding for people, outcasts, dissident thinkers,
Sure.
and so on, and, you know, give us some money to market and to produce experiments, maybe.
Yeah, I think the hard part is it's somewhat nebulous, and we don't have, you know, the way that works is like, I've got this great thing that if you set it here, it's one of them, it's true. You set it here, put your phone on it, it'll follow you, it'll do stuff, so it's like having, you know, what Hans is doing with that handheld without having a person. And then the person sees that value and says, yeah, I want that. It isn't in the market. I'll give you my $100. I'll get one of the first ones. The experiment that people know exactly what it is, what it's supposed to do. It's got to be very specific. I have not seen the case of a GoFundMe or crowdfunding where you say, oh, we want to do experiments in general, throw money at it. And people aren't motivated for that. So it would really take, in my opinion, something that may be a really interesting thing, that people would throw some money at it. It's not too expensive to do, and that would start. But I know what you're saying, but if you have an idea, let me know.
Let me mention something. Not necessarily, I mean, I don't know if you remember the case of Tyrannus, this girl Holmes, who had that completely scam that people...
Oh yeah, sure.
billions of dollars on hot air, you know.
Sure.
Not that we are hot air, but, you know, we can market, it can happen.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but again, they have to have a big carrot at the end. That people have to see the worth of it. That's what they have to see. And what we're doing, the worth is really just scientific knowledge against some things that we know that need to be known. I think, Sandro, that there could be something out there, and I'm always looking for it. And, you know, having people like yourself who know what it is. I mean, if you ask anybody in this room, most people wouldn't even know what we're really talking about. And so we need to get more young minds in it, because the more we get, something could hit. But the only reason, again, they give that money, for instance, one thing I forgot to say is the levels. If you give $5, you get this. If you get $10, you get this. And actually, I had an idea for this group. We would do stuff, and what happens if you do this, then you get your name in this. For instance, if you give us $5,000, I, Dave D. Hilster, will make a video, a mini documentary about you and your work. I mean, that was one of the things I was seeing, because when I did my crowdfunding in 2005 was sending out letters to people, and I had to make books and all kinds of stuff. Today, if I had crowdfunding, I think I would have gotten a lot more money for my documentary at the time. And I've heard that's another project, you do a documentary.
That would be great.
So, any other questions or comments, or? No? Well, thank you very much. Okay, we're off to lunch. Our main